Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GothamChess Slow Run. In this series, I started at the 400 rating on chess.com, and I've been moving up the rating ladder. We've gone from 400 to 1200, and in this episode, we will continue our rise through the intermediate level ranks, and we will cross 100 wins, which is not yet impressive because I am a 2,900 level player. So I'm not bragging. We are simply tallying up the score. A couple of things about this video. First of all, I will put a link in the description to a spreadsheet of all of the openings that I have played thus far. And second of all, you might have heard me talk about this once before. I will remind you once again that soon I will be going to Stockholm, Sweden for the chess party, April 17th and 18th. On the second day of the event, I will be doing a live show. We hope to have like 1,000 people in the audience, if not more. And there will be 10,000, hopefully, at this massive event. I will interview Anna Kramling, Judith Polgar. I will do live Guess the Elo. And also, I will play a blindfold exhibition game live on stage against none other than Anna Kramling. It's a rematch of my game against her at my European tour in 2025. So you can go to the link in the description, chessparty.com, for tickets. Looking forward to it. I think already a couple thousand, if I'm not mistaken, have bought tickets. So looking forward to seeing you all in Sweden in about a month. Last time I was in Sweden, the weather was rough, so I'm looking forward to it being better this time around. And on that note, shout out Chess Party, shout out the Slow Run, and here we go. 1200 e4 on the board. I will be playing the Scandinavian defense, or maybe, yes, I'll play the Scandinavian defense. My opponent plays the ultra-powerful queen to f3. So this is going to be sorted on the spreadsheet into Scandinavian, but really early queen nonsense. So pawn takes e4 now, and obviously this is just bad. We're not going to be going over all of the most baseline principles, but if your opponent's queen is in the middle and you can make easy developing moves, you should just do it. Checks are always very fascinating because it's like, if you go bishop d7, you get the satisfaction of attacking the queen, but then the queen is going to go there and attack this pawn, right? So still, this is very normal. Developing the knight is also very normal to block the check. I always say knights before bishops because you kind of know where your knight wants to go. You don't really know where your bishop wants to go. And since we don't know where our bishop wants to go, we save the opportunity to move the bishop out like this. Now, the move pawn to c3, it's very difficult to understand why this move was played, but it's a building block type of move. Sometimes an intermediate player or an advanced player will play a move like this because they want to support the advancement of this pawn into the center of the board. I almost don't even want to... I don't want to, like, guess that that's what's happening. I kind of want to shut it down completely. But also, we can guess if that's happening. We can play bishop d7 and see if my opponent's idea was to play, in fact, the move d4. Look. Immediately targeting this. So clearly the opponent is a pattern-based player. We are just defending our pawn here. And now I expect the move d4. I'm predicting every one of these moves because I mean, knight h3 is just absolutely horrendous. That is this is really just... This is 800 level, you know what I'm saying? But again, I don't want you to panic and do something you'll regret. You could just develop and block this diagonal. That is certainly an option. I don't like that the pawns can just be doubled here, so this is what I'm going to go for. In general, if you can completely shatter your opponent's pawn structure like this, you should do it. Now, I really don't know why my opponent is thinking here. That's weird. Maybe at this point somebody got bored and clicked on my profile and is seeing that they're playing me. But yes, obviously the recapture. In general, when you can do this to an opponent's pawn structure, it's going to be useful. Also in general, since I traded my light-squared bishop, I should put pawns on light squares. Why? Because I don't have a light-squared bishop anymore. My light squares are a little bit weaker. Was my move bishop takes h3 necessary? Not necessarily. So pawn to d4 on the board. Let's just develop our bishop and let's castle. I don't like that both of those moves that my opponent just played both took exactly 17 seconds. That is alarming. And if this next one also takes 17 seconds... that doesn't mean anything good. It doesn't mean anything good. Anyway. My opponent deep in thought. Okay. This is now taking much longer than 17 seconds. We have prevented ourselves from getting mated, and we are looking to castle. That trade that we made, it obviously opened up the G file. So rook G1 will be a very useful move for my opponent to attack me, potentially. Okay, bishop D3, we just castle. I think white is going to play here or here. Again, white is just kind of playing strange. When they play strange, you strike the center, especially if their king is in the middle of the board. Look, they're going for all this stuff. And look, the thing about when they play like this is if you just don't panic, you're going to have a really great time. Like, white is going to go bishop H6 now. And even though we allowed a little bit more of the attack than we maybe should have, losing a tiny bit of material, but preserving, preserving the attack, preserving the defense of the position is a totally reasonable way to play. Now, in this particular case, I said all of that, and I was sort of deliberating because I wanted to go G6. And my idea with G6, to stop this attack, my idea with G6 was that if they take my rook, I take, but the game will continue. However, I don't like that there are sacrificial ideas near my king. And so I'm going to take this moment to play the move rook to E8 check, because this is a very forcing move. It forces my opponent to make a decision. And then I will retreat my bishop to defend my king. And after the game, I will show you that the move G6 actually could have been very dangerous for me. I don't think the sacrifice was working, but it was very scary, potentially. So my opponent plays king D1, and now I bring my bishop back to F8, and I just play defense. White is threatening me like this, and white is threatening me like this, and everything is protected. Bishop G5. The idea is also to continue to attack. Now, H6 would be a huge mistake. A lot of you would make the move H6, but you would forget that the bishop was just there. That is a blind spot that occasionally happens. Honestly, there is no need to panic. Keep chopping down the center. Now you are opening up lines to the opponent's king, and the best way to meet an attack is to strike straight back down the center. Remember, the bishop leading the attack is not the scary piece. If the queen was leading the attack, it would be a very different story. But my opponent now is going to lose a bishop with a check, and because they never got their king out of the center, they will be severely punished. Severely. They've lost the bishop, and their king is actually the one under attack. This was a game, the example of what I'm showing you here is defending. This is defending as a skill, right? And now we look, we go, okay, do we have a discovered check? I like the move knight b4 check, which attacks the king and the queen. Yes, that is probably the best move, but now we just trade. We're winning. We're up material, so it's okay to trade the queen because we just win some material. Now, here's a very important moment. Very important moment. We accidentally stumbled into something kind of bad. Kind of unfortunate here. Our knight is hanging, and so is this knight because of the pin. Uh-oh. Okay, well, let's bring the knight back. Now, let's see if my opponent is good at removing the defender. So this is protecting this, right? So the best move now for white would be pawn to c4. That would be an interesting little idea. They missed it. Totally missed it. Totally missed this move. And now you have several choices. You can move the knight that's hanging after this. You can stop the move this. And spotting this for the opponent is the next level. It's the next level of chess. I'm going to go here because we're just going to trade a piece like this, right? I'm initiating a trade. But spotting that tactic for the opponent is going to get you to 13, 14, 1500. Seeing how, there's threats against me, right? So this was a defense game. This was a counterattacking game, and this was a spotting tactical opportunities for the opponent game and converting winning positions. And I'm going to show you. A couple of episodes ago, I mentioned all of these things will be in my next book. So the rook attacks the knight, we just protect. All of those things, defending, converting winning positions, creating counterattacking chances, all of that is in How to Win at Chess 2, next level. This is just a free pawn. There's no reason not to take a free pawn. The more pawns we have going into the endgame, the better we will be. Honestly, I kind of think white will play king b3 or like reuse this pin, although there's nothing. That book is not out yet, October 2026. Let's see how good my opponent's tactics are. Will they take this pawn? Will they realize? Yes. See, actually, very one-track mind, like very, very good, but I'm going to snap take this pawn. So I kind of blundered there, but I was mostly testing my opponent. Now this is a fork. They could forget the bishop is actually hanging. That could happen, but okay, they play this move. I take. This looks possible, but is not. They could play rook takes d5 and then try this and run directly into a counterattack because I am threatening a check. Aha. Very, very cool. Now, will they spot this? Ah, rook f2 check. You gotta spot the counterattack for the opponent. And now it's a real counter, because the only way to save the bishop is to play rook to bishop to d2. You see? This is the next level. This is the next level right here. So bishop will go back. I'm going to take. Then we're going to simplify. And white is going to be left with no pieces. This was a nice game in counterattacking. Before we take, we could also play bishop a3, but rook f4. Now you either win this in an endgame, or I think maybe c5. We're going to take it. White might resign somewhere here. A resignation here would not be crazy, but I still would advise all of you finish out the games. Finish out the games, okay? You have to learn how to checkmate people. I don't really know what white has to think about here, but... Check. Check. And after rook e2, we are going to snap off both rooks. Check. I'm going to snap off that rook. And white is left with literally a king. There is no greater accomplishment than taking every single piece from your opponent. And we are just going to push. And we are going to win. That is 96 wins for us. We're going to try to get to 100, I hope, in this episode. Might take a little longer, but... Keep in mind, folks, we played a Scandinavian, but really this was an early queen game. This was a queen hunt game. One of these checks, if you move your bishop and they play something like queen to b3 going after this pawn, the computer actually thinks the position is so good, you can just lose the pawn. Because what happens is you get such a huge lead in development with like e5 and bishop c5, the computer is completely unafraid. I think it's not practical, so if this were to happen, just protect your pawn. And then just play like e6, knight c6, etc. I know, it's not the best move, but as you get stronger, you will realize that when they just have a queen out, if you get everybody going, you're going to have some really nasty counterattacking chances. In the game in particular, I damaged the pawn structure. I put pawns on light squares, right? And the second my opponent stalled too long, I struck with a pawn break in the center of the board. The move e5 is also a pawn break covered in chapter 2 of the upcoming book, which is How to Win at Chess Next Level. In the upcoming book, I talk about using your pawns, using your pieces, attacking, defending, tactical play, converting winning positions, defending, did I say that already? Defending? Everything is covered in this game. It's really, it's a very exciting time. And I can't wait to share it with all of you. I hope you understood everything that I was doing in that game. I thought I was laying it out quite nicely. And now we will play e4. Let's play e4. Caro-Kann defense. So, let's play the fantasy variation. Against the Caro-Kann defense, one of the most annoying ways to play is after d5, we play f3. Now, either my opponent is thinking about what to play, or they've clicked on the profile, and that is what we will never know. Fantasy. 3f3 in the Caro-Kann. I haven't played this yet. Wow, black actually plays one of the best moves. e5 is very tricky. And then black is supposed to go to this diagonal with the pieces. Now, does my opponent know that? This is really high-level stuff. Now, what some people do, and I'm not saying they're doing this, but what some people do, and this is very illegal, is they go to their opening course as they play a game. That is highly illegal. You will be banned for that. Now, I don't like that black spent 24 seconds and then came up with this move, but maybe they just remembered it. And now after this, I don't exactly remember, but I think it's queen b6, knight a4, bishop f2, king e2, and then you play like queen d4, and then it's like takes, Something like that. I think. Because the idea is to put the bishop on f2 with check. That's the idea. And so, you know, my opponent is playing into this line. Knight a4, I think it's at... This is way too sharp and complicated, but since my opponent is playing all of the correct moves, then that's how it has to be. Wow. So let's see. Will black play queen to d4, which is the best move? Now I don't remember what to do, but I think you can just take the queen. Hopefully they don't have to think about this move. And now we will play chess. I don't remember if the best move here is pawn takes pawn. It very well could be pawn takes pawn. I think it might be pawn to f4, and then after it takes, I can trade. And I don't think it's bishop f4. Let me just go f4. So now my opponent is out of the opening book and probably has to think on their own. They can take this. I will trade the bishop away. And now we will play out of the opening. Okay, they gave me a check. I just slide my king over, nothing crazy. And of course, after this capture, I will try to target this bishop as best as I can. How do you play a position where you don't exactly know the plans? What do you do? Well, you try to play with your pieces, and you try to take a look at your pawn structure and see the most optimal way to set up your pawns to either rush forward or to restrict the opponent's movement. Right now, I am looking at this bishop. I kind of want to kick it out. There's also a chance I can trap the bishop. So if I play h3 and they don't go to e6, I can trap the bishop. Let's play h3. Let's see if bishop h5 happens. If bishop h5 is played instantly, we will just trap the bishop. If it goes here, we can just push g4. Yeah, I don't see any reason not to take more space. Of course, oh, and they just let me trap the bishop immediately. And that is why you need to not just memorize openings. You have to... And this is pawn play and piece play all together. So we will take the bishop. And they hung 2 knights. Amazing. 2 pieces. My opponent is just giving away everything now. Okay, so in that game, my opponent clearly at 1200 knew the opening very well. They knew the opening very well. And they, after that, did not know how to play the position very well at all. That's okay. That is what happens. So let's take a look, right? In the Caro-Kann defense, the fantasy variation is one of the most poisonous ways to play with white. And the reason for that is that after pawn takes, white gets a full center. White gets to play knight out, bishop, etc. Castle, and create some attacking chances. The best move in the fantasy variation with black is honestly probably the one that my opponent played. It's not the computer's top choice, but practically speaking, it is very tricky. Clearly, my opponent knew it, because after e5, they played bishop c5 and queen b6. And that is the key idea, is that you try to weaken the diagonal. It could be very dangerous for white. So now you know, but it's not a very popular move. There's also moves like e6, g6. There's one particular variation where you actually get really deep into the weeds. But if you don't want to do this, the very easy way to play the Caro-Kann is simply to trade, play with your c-pawn, then move out your knights and your bishop. But at 1200, I am curious about how people are playing in the opening. And actually, as you saw in this game, somebody was very well prepared in the Caro-Kann, actually got, exactly what they were supposed to. So takes here, they threw in this check, and then here, white just has an advantage. So I knew the line, I knew what I was supposed to do. And this is not so difficult to memorize. You just have to memorize about 9 moves. If you're watching this and you're below 1,000, that might seem completely impossible, but yes, that is correct. So I knew the whole variation that I was playing, and because of that, I managed to get a good position. Now, so black actually played fine, but then here they had to think on their own and very quickly got their own bishop trapped, and that's tragic, Had black played the move bishop here, here's how I would have continued. Of course, I can take the pawn with my king. I can do that. But I don't like how susceptible I am to attacks. So why not bring this bad knight back to try to take this pawn? Then we would find a way to develop these 2 pieces. Sometimes you need to squiggle with the knight. Boop, boop, 2 moves. Sometimes you need to move the bishop a couple times. Then we would put our rooks in the middle. And then we would take more space with our pawns. Every type of position, you have to think about where your knights, bishops, and pawns should be going, even if you don't have a lot of experience playing that type of position. And as I said, the pawns need to be coordinated. They need to be defending each other. They need to take control of certain squares in the opponent's position. And they also can restrict. They can restrict movement of the opponent. So yeah, that was a game that was very unfortunate. I mean, my opponent played an opening, and then I'll show you how to play the Caro-Kann with black. And they played an opening where they clearly knew the line, and then they didn't know the line anymore. So advanced variation, 2 lines. Bishop to f5 and c5. I like this move much more. I have played this move extensively, so we play knight c6 now. And the second that knight comes out, we're going to pin it. The second it comes out, we're going to pin it. Or you can take and then pin, but let's just pin. And the plan is very easy here. At the right moment, by the way, even right now, this very second, you can actually take the knight. Why? Let me show you. Because then you chop in the center. And if you can get this structure, exactly what you see on your screen, this is a nightmare structure to defend when you are playing with the white pieces. This pawn is so delicate. We reposition our horses in such a fashion that it's just so hard for white to protect this pawn. It doesn't have a pawn defending it anymore, and white will have to play something like bishop to e3, right? And just sort of sit there while this light squared bishop is just not doing anything. It's not really participating in the game, which is fine. And they just hung the pawn. They just straight up didn't even defend the pawn. That's crazy. How can you... Come on. So now we will go bishop e7 and castle. And this Caro-Kann pawn structure is such an easy elo hack in the intermediate level. People just don't know what to do when they can't rush straight forward into the position. A locked structure, in the center, is so fun for the knights to dance around and go attack. I didn't even do anything complicated. I just traded my light squared bishop for the knight in the advanced Caro-Kann. I destabilized the white center, and voila. Now, some of you would be tempted to rush in with this move. You can. There's nothing really wrong with it. But next, pawn play and piece play. Don't go here and don't go here. Knight d4 accomplishes nothing. Knight d4 is a beginner level move where you attack the queen and then you think, oh, I'm going to go fork. Yeah, but they're not going to let you do that. And you haven't gotten the rest of the pieces out. And the move d4 is just a feel-good move, which allows the opponent to bring the knight closer into the game. A much better move is something like bishop to b4 or bishop to e7. And keep in mind, I shouldn't have played knight takes bishop. My knight was way better. So let's just develop a piece. I'll show you why this is just bad, what I've done. Exactly. Look, now white is just going to have a ton of initiative. They're going to have a lot of attacking ideas against my king. They have the ability to launch a very powerful attack against my king. Look at this. And what is the idea? What did we learn from the game against the Indian player? The idea is bishop h6 and queen g7. Now we see this is predicting what our opponents want to do. How do you stop that? Well, you probably should just move the king off the line. You can also play g6, but I don't like g6. I really want to avoid pushing something where I've castled. So let's get out of the pin now that we learned that little pattern with bishop h6. Knight e4 is a fantastic little move. Knight e4 is amazing by my opponent. If knight e4 brings a piece to the attack, and if I take it, they're going to take my queen. It's amazing. I mean, the way my opponent is playing is really amazing, but I'm going to go for it. Let's see how to play and defend against the queen. And if they take, they get back rank mated. That would be really hilarious, but I don't think that's going to happen. So if rook takes, rook d1 is mate. They saw it. Well, what can I do? So this pawn's under attack. We will learn how to defend against the queen in this game. This pawn's under attack. Is there anything inherently wrong with the move rook to d4? I don't think so. We are going to defend the pawn. Right now, we have equal material. We have a rook, a knight, and a pawn for a queen. That's what we have. Okay, my rook is under attack. I can move it to several places. Maybe I can even go back to d5. Right? I can move it there and try to pin. But this pawn will likely be lost. That is the truth. I don't see a comfortable way to protect this pawn. Maybe my opponent's going to play bishop f4, and we could repeat the position. But since this is the slow run, ooh, f4. But I can en passant. That's very important. In fact, I don't even have to en passant because there is no threat to this move. And if f5, I just take. This rook is bad, which gives me the feeling I should probably go here. At the same time, it's not clear, like, should I passant or should I not? Because this pawn could be an asset. However, seeing as though it might be a target, let's passant, because who doesn't love a nice little en passant? But moving a pawn in front of your king like this, you lose a defender in the center of the board. Also, you could be weakening your own king. The way you fight against the queen is you minimize the trades. You try to keep as many soldiers on the board as you can. Right now, we've got 4 very strong ones. Coordinate them very nicely and hunt down the weaknesses. So this is just a free pawn now. Now, should I take it with the rook or with the knight? I think most of you would take it with the knight. In this particular case, I actually agree. Taking with the rook is maybe fine. Both seem fine, but there's no harm. You know, sometimes you attack a queen and it goes and checkmates you. But in this case, I've now won 2 pawns, right? So do I have to move my knight? No. I see this is under attack. Maybe I just defend it. I can also just move my knight exactly where it once stood. You know, I see some ideas here, but nothing super obvious. So maybe I just play a6. Now, I think probably it's better to play a move like knight to d3. Or, you know, bishop d6 or something. But my pawn is hanging, so let's just make a move and chill out. Now, bishop h6 is a cool idea. Bishop g5 is also... Oh, bishop g5 is very fortunate not to lose the game on the spot, by the way. The idea of bishop to g5 was that if I take, queen takes. However, there is knight to f3 with a check winning the queen. What makes this very fortunate for my opponent is that after bishop takes, they might be able to play rook takes e5 and survive. And that sucks, because that would have been a really nice way to win there. Let's see if we have anything we can come up with here, like in a tactical perspective. I'm looking at bishop check. Obviously, I could just go for this. I'm not even sure that they would see it. But if we go for that, then I have to minimize my trades. Fine, let's go here. Let's see if they just immediately blunder this. Okay, they don't. Now, time to be instructive. We have little moves like bishop h4. We could deflect the queen from the defense of the rook. I have said we want to avoid trades. Oh, I'm not going to be able to avoid trades, actually, if my opponent does this correctly. Like, rook e1 here is a very good move. And then maybe I have to go back to d5. Kind of funny. I can also try to deflect. Yeah, very interesting game. Opponent playing very well. I mean, crazy, the level at 1200. Like, really. Rook e1 on the freaking board. Insane. Insanity. What a move. Craziness. Okay, let's see if my opponent tries to make a draw with me after rook d5. Ah, man. I'm not happy. This is not supposed to be like this. I can play bishop f4, looking to deflect the queen. You have requested for a while that I play a position where I am losing. So here it is. Let's go back to d5. Will my opponent repeat? It'd be very funny. They would have quite the sense of humor if they managed to repeat the position. No, no, no. We're going to try to deflect the bishop. Deflect the queen, rather. So we're trying to get the queen to take, and then we're going to take. Actually, it's still probably tricky after that. So we're trying to... Now I can give this check without a trade. Ooh. And then there are 3 pieces on the dark squares. Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. This could be something. I think the way to avoid this is like a cheeky little queen move like this. I mean, my opponent's playing unbelievable chess. I fully expect them to... All right, we go... Oh, rook d2 is... Okay, let's just play defense. So bishop d6 was possible, but I'm trying to avoid trades. Trying to avoid trades here. So I have a rook, a bishop, some pawns. Will my opponent blunder their queen in one move? Queen takes pawn, bishop check, lose the queen. Could it happen? The way my opponent's playing, absolutely no chance. Absolutely no chance that that's going to happen. We need our pieces all together. So a bishop on f6 is really strong. Yes, let's bring the king. So we're protecting ourselves. We are always looking for back rank. Looking for some back rank trick. That's a dark square. Yep. Bishop c5 is bishop f6, also possible. Bishop f6. Maybe a queen move is going to happen. My opponent's going to try to take my bishop. Some queen g3, queen g4 type of business. Watch. Very instructive game. Okay, g4 is a curious move. But now maybe I can... First, let's protect our king, so we stop anything like this. Very solid. Everything is protected. Notice I'm protecting every pawn. If these pawns are traded, it's going to be impossible for white to win. Those pawns can come down on the other side and try to become queens, but that's going to be quite challenging. Let's advance because I want to move my rook. And right now, if I move my rook, I would have lost my pawn. So I expect something like one of these moves from my opponent. We're going to defend that. We have to speed up a little bit here. Otherwise, we're just going to lose on time. Not an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. We're going to slide forward. We're just waiting. We could attack. I would like to maybe trade a couple of pawns and weaken the white king. That might be a nice little strategy for us. So let's go. There's no check. This is a check, maybe. Let's go here. So what we're doing is we're just weakening the king. We're removing pawns as defenders of the king. I think it could be very useful for us. Also, if takes, maybe I have rook here and bishop h4. I kind of doubt he blunders that. He's been playing too accurately for me to land such a silly tactic. But this is, you always have to look. Like, pieces are only on dark squares. You know, the sacrifice could be there. But 2 rooks versus a queen, very resilient. Rook and bishop are resilient, but they don't have the same power. They have to be coordinated very, very, very intelligently. Let's maybe... What are we trying to do here? Let's maybe go rook d4 now. Notice my moves have sped up, because clock is important. Clock is a piece. I'm trying not to lose on time. Maybe some sort of queen c6 back is going to happen. All right, we're trying to increase our pace a little bit. My opponent's gone deep into the tank. Yes, we're going to throw in a check. Maybe they go back. Nothing crazy. Yeah, this pawn is just very weak. So, okay, I guess I can take. I can go back to d6. I can throw in this check now, maybe. Okay, maybe we're making a little progress here. Pawn to h4 check. Pushing the king back. Maybe rook d2, but he's just so well protected. Just so well protected, you know? Spending a little too much time here for my liking. Rook f2, I can maybe check and go win myself a pawn, but that would involve a trade of rooks. Ooh, I don't know. I can win a pawn. Let's go win a pawn. Let's go win a pawn. Let's see. Let's go win this pawn, and our king's gonna hide, and it's gonna be messy, but we're gonna try. We're gonna try to... We got this pawn, and I said earlier, if we get the right pawns off the board, now we're in business. We're also both down to 3 minutes. This check doesn't work. There is no check here, and if I put my rook on a dark square, everything is protected in my position. Everything. Now, will my opponent... hold this game? Are they going to play like queen here, maybe? This is insane. 1200s are playing like Magnus Carlsen out here. I think this is the best move. Queen c6. Does that move have a threat? Looking at this, maybe I go rook h2 here. But rook h2 is scary looking. Maybe we just run back and protect our back rank. Okay, I'm going to go rook h2. If check, pawn to g6, queen f4. Okay, g6, queen f4, rook h3. This is wild. So queen f4 is a fork. But I have check, which is so important. That's all I calculated, that this is a check, and this is a check, and now I can maybe run away with my bishop. So this is a check. This is all I looked at. I don't know if this works. Maybe king to g7 here. Like this. Now g5 doesn't work, because I just take it. Look how solid a rook and a bishop play against the queen. Maybe my next move is g5, actually. Incredible. What a resilient position. Very instructive how to play with rook and bishop. If I play g5, I don't think there's a way through my position anymore. I think white has to go here, and that's when I'm going to eat the rest of the pawns. And if I eat the rest of the pawns, it's just over. Now there's no way into my position. Very instructive game. So far, I think the highest level game of the entire slow run, by the way. I predicted that move. Now I take this pawn. They take this pawn. I take this pawn. And we win. Look at that. Rook, bishop, and 6 pawns. And they're going to go queen h5, but there's no threat. No threat. What a game. What an unbelievable game this was. I mean, this is extremely instructive. Don't hang that. Let's give a check. Everything protected. And we can start pushing our pawn b4. Look at the beautiful coordination of the black position. b3 and b2 is coming. So the pawn is going to stand a square away from promotion now. So white will have to monitor it at all times, and then we just push the rest of the pawns. We've also overtaken on the clock. No checks here. b2. And this pawn's coming, and I mean, you just can't... I don't think you can survive this. Actually, the cleanest way to win is go use the rook. Remove the queen. Rook a4, rook c4. Look how safe I made the black king. I mean, that was a very difficult game. I think this person played like a 2,000 plus. 2,000 plus this person played. Crazy games today. Really, really tough games. I mean, goodness me. Wow, that was difficult. So, in the opening, first of all, let's make this 98. So, in the opening, my opponent played the advanced Caro-Kann, and I showed you that this pawn structure is extremely nice for black. So this pawn structure is super, super comfortable for black. Trading that bishop for that knight and rendering the light squared bishop totally useless on the f3 square, where it just does not participate. I really like this, and you definitely should try this type of pawn structure. And well, yeah, my opponent played bishop f4 and blundered this pawn. Then they went here. And as I said, the knight is actually better than the bishop. The bishop is a congesting piece. And this is something I call, for intermediate and advanced players, superseding concepts. In chess, you have a concept. Knight is worse than bishop. Bishop is better than knight. And then you have another concept which supersedes that concept in certain moments. And this is one of those moments. The quality of this bishop, the relative value of these two pieces, it's not better than this knight. If in this position I simply develop my bishop and white made some move like rook c1 and I castled, this bishop is in the way. By taking on f3, look how much of my advantage in the next few moves is going to go away. So rook d1 comes in, right? My opponent plays queen g3, and now they play this unbelievable move, knight to e4. Knight e4 is crazy. Did I have to take? No, of course not. But they would have brought another piece to attack me with, you know? And then, when I did this, you know, my opponent was actually playing super well even here. I didn't like this move. I took en passant, but I thought this was such an interesting game. Like, how black here has all these pieces, but actually it's white's queen who's the main attacker, but black is better according to the computer. It's just, you know, and then here, you know, this trading too many pieces. Look, it's -1. But if I trade like this, it's immediately plus, close to plus, because white is going to try to go in and eat my pawns. So very instructive game. Very instructive how I was just patient. Look, I took this position and I slowly improved. And even when a queen has no target, it's not that powerful. When everything in your position is protected and you play patiently, the queen is not an easy piece to use. It needs weaknesses and it needs help. And so by minimizing the amount of trades and trading the right pieces, which is a difficult skill to develop, I managed to render the queen not as powerful as it could be. Okay, let's play d4. Let's play an aggressive London opening. Let's play a Jobava maybe, bishop c4, knight c3, something a little bit offbeat. We can also play one of my favorites, which is the Trumpowski, but let's play the London and let's see what happens. Maybe black will play King's Indian defense, and I'll play knight c3, or black will play d5. London is simple, straightforward. Okay, knight c3 against this setup, d6, g6. Oh, this might be a 20-move victory. e4, you change it up. Queen d2, this is a very simple plan. Bishop is going to h6, long castle, f3, g4, h4, h5, checkmate. Okay, this move is obviously just playing into our hands. I mean, this is a terrible, unprincipled move. You can take or you can castle. I really don't care which one you do here, because this is still protected. Black needs to fight back, otherwise we're just going to take and checkmate. And the plan is f3, g4, h4, h5 takes, checkmate. These pieces will be developed. We will see where. Now, the most challenging approach is not exactly this move, because the problem with this move is that it takes a really long time to actually make me do something. What does that mean? Well, notice that this move immediately makes black do something. I'm immediately creating a threat. Bishop takes, just wins the game on the spot. Okay, and now h4. Now black is just a couple moves away from a really vicious attack coming down the board, of which they cannot escape. I'm just advancing, right? Opposite side castling, very nice attacking game here. a4, but that's going to take 3 moves total, and then I just push, and they don't get into the position at all. It's important to use your C and B pawns. This is actually a much better move. This is a much better move. Now I could take, I can push, I can also ignore. Ignore is a little bold. I don't mind pushing, because when you push, you lock the center. And an attacking player wants the center locked. We're going to chop off this knight to keep our attack going. h5's coming in. h5 coming in. The attack has landed. We've arrived first. Black has no pieces out, and could just be a couple moves away from getting mated. Now, we could take, because we want to open up our position. You know what's an even better move? If we take, how's black going to take back? Pawn, pawn, bishop. You have to find the best move. They're going to take back with the bishop. So you deflect the bishop away. I said, you use the h and g pawns, and now the game is over. Because now you play pawn takes, bishop takes, queen h6, queen h7, and you win. We rip open the position. Black is completely lost. It's probably like +6 already, if not more. 10 moves, 12 moves. This is how you attack a King's Indian defense or a Peert's defense when you play the London. It's one of the biggest hacks in terms of opening positions, because you just get vicious attacking chess. Please don't defend this pawn, right? We know what we're trying to do here. We're trying to take. Honestly, it doesn't matter which way you take. I don't think there's any difference at all. They probably should take with the f-pawn. Normally, you want to take toward the center, but they need some counterplay. Now we take, we go here. We're not going to, it looks like, unfortunately, we're not going to get a checkmate. Oh my God. Why would you, I mean, 2 moves get mated and 1 runs away. This is crazy. That's such a crazy, that move was played in 1.2 seconds. No, you have to run away. You got to be resilient. We're going to take and here, and we're going to take, and then you're going to block, and then we're going to move our queen, maybe take another pawn. But look how easily you can blunder. Look how easily you can blunder. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa. And the only move here is checking again, and then you get out of it. But come on, you can't be blundering mate in 1 like this. Let's look at this. All right, this is one of the biggest hacks. I have a London course, and my recommendation in the London course is to play precisely like this. Precisely like this. Because, you know, this is tricky stuff, you know? And when you play like this, it's already plus 2.5 after 7 moves. The best move in this position for black is c6. Because c6 builds building block, just like the first game of the episode. The building block, and then you hit the knight. And that actually makes me do something. This is a vague attacking move. You take too long to arrive to a target. I played bishop here. I also could have maybe played f3, g4, h4, of course, but I used my bishop to target the knight, and I used my h-pawn. And it's over. This position is already completely unguardable. The computer doesn't even want me to play e5, but why did I play e5? Why did I not take? Look, it's plus 3.9, it's plus 4, right? If I take, plus 2 goes down a lot. And then if you take again, it's only barely plus 2, and you might even get mated. Look, bishop takes, queen takes a2. I mean, it's dangerous out here. You would have to find queen h6, defending your bishop and getting your king out. Not easy. Not easy at all, but this is a very instructive game of how to attack a castled king when castled on opposite sides. And I think we have time. We might as well get to 100, yeah? I did promise it. All right. We are getting to 100. We've played a Caro-Kann. We've played a Scandinavian. Let's play a real Scandinavian. I feel like we got some queen f3 business. Okay. Is this a blunder or the gambit? Are we getting gambited? Okay. So what's the big idea? Is it this? Is it always about this stupid f7 square that everybody goes for? Is that what's happening? What's the big idea, dude? I'm just a pawn up now. I mean, you guys, this is why Scandinavian is fantastic. What on earth is that? Well, if you want and you don't like this knight, of course you can just play bishop f5, e6, bishop d6. If you don't like where the knight is and you don't want to double your pawns, trade it off. Just offer a trade of knights. And if they take you, they have no active pieces. If they go here, you can again offer to trade the knight, and that pawn structure would be better than just going knight to c6. Okay, what's the big idea there? Yeah, but I have another knight. My knight will go to where that knight was. Now this is a double attack on the queen, actually. Oh my goodness, to the home square. Okay, now we're gonna, I expect g4, by the way. Okay, no g4. Principal chess, get our bishop out. Active bishop. Maybe some b4. Look, this is wild playing like this. Okay, I mean, we can just chop that down, obviously. We have an extra pawn. They lost a pawn on the first move of the game. The second move of the game. Should we take? What should we do? Sure, we can take. Why not? Free. It's a trade, not free. Let's learn how to play an endgame. As the final game of the video, long castle to create a pawn target. It's just a weak pawn. It has to be protected by the king, which is really unfortunate. And we are going to double up. I'm going to try to double up the rooks. With rook d7 and rook d8, I fully expect bishop to g5. Honestly, I can't predict any of the opponent's moves in this game. And I will show you how to play either my bishop versus their knight or their bishop versus my knight, whichever happens first. A bishop can only go on one color square, and so you will have to find a way to implement a strategy in an endgame where certain colors are totally locked down. I don't want knight versus knight, to be honest with you. But if I don't have a choice, maybe I can show you how to play a rook endgame. Pawn takes is the better move. Yep. Okay. Now let's learn how to play a rook endgame. Rook takes is probably better. It's a little bit more active. We have more pawns than they do. This usually will simplify down to a position where you then try to win a king and pawn endgame. Rook endgames. One move threats are generally not it. Infiltration is much more effective, like rook c5, rook c2. You know, vertically attacking a pawn like this, really not going to work because they're going to play a move like b4. Although, if they do, you can smash it with your own pawn, right? So you can play something like a5. In general, In an endgame like this, I would say keeping your outskirt pawns is a little bit better, but I don't like that my rook is over here, so let's play a5. We're just making a trade, right? Slow moves. What on earth is that? You just lose the pawn! What? But what if I don't lose the rook? Like, what was the strategy there? You just lost the pawn. You can't do this. Now I have a pawn that's just queening. So of course you join forces. The pawns go together. And this pawn guards this pawn. Oh, this is just... Okay, well now... Yeah, now I'm really disappointed. Now you bring your king forward, you put your rook where there's more pressure, and this is... We're going to win the game over there. Rook f1 is possible, but if rook f1, I just push. I can also bring my king. Okay, I'm pinned, but I'm protected. So either you protect the pawn more, or you get the king out of the pin, so the move d4 is not possible. That's maybe trying to go here, and look, you can shut that down completely. Now the move d4 is completely impossible. My opponent will play, okay, some move. We play rook a8, we apply more pressure. I would like to take the pawn, but if I take the pawn, I lose this one. The dynamic of the rook. So be patient. Bring the king, bring the pawn. We're going to win the game over there. We don't care about anything over here anymore. It doesn't have to be touched. If the king walks in, we don't care. It can't get any closer. Patience. Patience. Take the pawn. They're going to take probably. You shouldn't be trading down any material, but it doesn't really matter. And we will be winning in emphatic fashion. Rook a2. Yeah, that's a good move. You can give a check. Force the king to the last rank. Or, I totally forgot about this move. Rock solid. Patient game. Defending everything. White does not have counterplay. A rook tangled in a web of pawns. Not gonna work. That's another pawn. Notice I didn't take with that pawn. Didn't want to let the rooks in. Now you can take another pawn. 5 pawns up in a rook endgame is probably going to be decisive. Go up. Web of pawns. Good protection. Okay, now we obviously simplify. 3 passed pawns should be more than enough. We don't even need to use our rook anymore. We can bring our king and bring the pawns. And that is... If my rook literally disappeared right now, I would still be winning because a rook just cannot defend against pawns. So even at 1200, the variance of opening understanding is insane. It's insane. We had 2 people today that played crazy in the opening, and then they just, right, they just went a little bananas. But they're still doing stuff like, what is this? It's -2 on move 4. -1.4. I mean, this is crazy. It's like, black is just winning from the opening. And if you just play principal chess, make smart trades, you're just going to get super easy positions against some of these players. But some of these players will be very good. I mean, they really, like, the guy that played me the queen game when I had the rook and the bishop, really, really instructive. Very tough game. In this game, you know, I was doing all this explaining about endgames, and if something like this were to have happened, the way that black puts pressure here is by bringing the whole team forward together. So if my opponent plays rook f1, I put a little spike. A little spike, I don't let the opponent come in. If my opponent makes another pawn move, I bring my king to the middle with the pawns, and I'm ready to target a weakness. Endgames are all about infiltrating and maximizing the activity of your rooks and pieces, and weaknesses, weak squares, and weak targets. In this position, I'm looking at the computer now, the best move for black was either rook b5 or rook g5, not to just create a threat, but to strike with a flank pawn and target the weaknesses, because all of a sudden, white just almost loses a pawn by force. They can't defend. If they go rook f1, patient, right? And now you bring the king, and you bring the pawns, and you bring the king, and you make improving moves, and then you start simplifying. The side that's defending a rook endgame, if you're down a pawn, you will lose almost every pawn endgame if you have less pawns. Simple math. With rooks, it's very different, but a lot of the same stuff still applies. Today was a fascinating episode. We played some really interesting people. And I hope to continue this climb. I hope you are learning. I have an educational platform, Chessly, which doesn't require a free trial. If you would like to go take some of what you're learning in these videos, learn some of the openings like Caro-Kann or London or whatever, and obviously look forward to the book. The book is out in 7 months. Hopefully you have gained rating by then, but if not, hope it's coming soon. That's all. 100 wins, 1200 plus rating. You know the drill. Get out of here.